Welcome to 404 Phantom, a digital vault of stories that shouldn't exist. Here, forgotten files, corrupted memories, and artificial nightmares are reconstructed, line by terrifying line. These are not just stories, they're fragments, echoes, warnings. Press play, and you may never log out the same again.
First sign was not the noise. It was the silence. Not quiet, not calm. Absence. At exactly 3:17 every morning, the house stopped breathing. No pipes knocking, no wind outside, no low electrical hum from the fridge. Even the dog froze where it stood, one paw lifted, eyes open but empty, like a paused video frame. Only I could move. At the time, I did not understand how wrong that was. I noticed the clock first, the one hanging in the hallway outside the bedroom. It was still ticking, but the second hand was not moving forward. It trembled in place, vibrating like it was stuck between moments. I snapped my fingers in front of my face. There was no echo. I said my wife's name. She was standing in the kitchen, mouth open, frozen halfway through a word she never finished. That was when the feeling started. The pressure. The sense that the house was no longer empty. They did not arrive. They were already there. Standing in corners I'd never paid attention to before. Places where the light bent strangely. Places where shadows did not behave like shadows should. They were tall. Too tall for the rooms they stood in. Their limbs bent at wrong angles, like joints assembled incorrectly from memory. Their faces were unfinished, smooth, blank, no eyes. And yet I knew, with complete certainty, that they were watching me, not observing, measuring. When they moved, the world stuttered. Reality skipped, like frames missing from a damaged video file. One of them stepped forward, and the hallway stretched longer with each movement. Doors drifted farther apart. The family photos along the wall warped and smeared. Faces twisted into expressions I'd never seen before. Fear, recognition, grief. The thing tilted its head, as if listening to something I could not hear. Then time resumed. Sound crashed back into the house all at once. My wife screamed. The dog collapsed mid-bark, hitting the floor like a dropped object. Air rushed back into my lungs, as if I had been holding my breath without knowing it. The clock ticked normally again. 3:18. Only 1 minute had passed, but when I looked into the mirror, my reflection was wrong. Older, not by much, but enough to notice. It happened again the next night, and the night after that. Always at 3:17. Always for exactly 1 minute. They never touched us. They did not need to. They adjusted things. A chair would be closer to the wall in the morning. A door would be unlocked that I clearly remembered locking. A sentence would repeat itself later in the day, spoken word for word by someone who had no memory of saying it before. Sometimes, someone would blink and forget an entire year of their life. They would not notice the gap, but I would. The house itself began to change. Corners felt sharper. Rooms seemed slightly larger on the inside than they should have been. The air grew heavy at night, thick with something that made my ears ring. I stopped sleeping. Every night I waited, watching the clock. 3:16, 3:16 and 30 seconds, 3:16 and 59, 3:17. The pause came harder each time, more complete. On the fifth night, even the dust froze in midair. Tiny particles suspended like stars in a dead sky. I walked through them, leaving clean tunnels behind me that slowly filled back in when time resumed. The beings stood closer now, no longer hiding in corners, standing in doorways, at the foot of the stairs, beside the bed. I tried to speak to them. My voice worked during the pause. Sound existed, but it felt wrong, flat, unanchored. They did not respond, but one of them leaned closer, and the pressure behind my eyes intensified. Images flooded my mind, versions of the house that were not mine, burned, collapsed, empty, full of people who were not us. I understood then. They were not haunting the house. They were testing it. This place was thin, a weak point, a junction between versions of reality that were never meant to touch. They could stop time because here time was fragile, and we were noise, interference, data that did not belong. I tried filming it. The video showed nothing, perfectly still rooms, frozen people. But the audio was wrong, layered breathing that did not match my own. Voices speaking slightly out of sync, repeating the same phrase over and over. This instance is unstable. This instance is unstable. This instance is unstable. On the 7th night, one of them stood beside my bed, so close that the air bent around its shape. It leaned down. I felt something press into my thoughts. Not pain, selection. I understood what was about to happen. Time resumed. 3:18. My wife was gone, not dead, not missing. She had never existed. There were no photographs, no records, no memories of her in anyone else's mind. Her clothes were gone, her toothbrush, her voice. Tonight is the 10th night. It is 3:16. The air is thick again. The corners of the room feel crowded. If you are hearing this and your clock hesitates, even for a fraction of a second, do not move. They are deciding whether your house is worth keeping, or whether they will pause time one last time and start it again, without you.
You've just listened to another cursed fragment from 404 Phantom. If you made it this far, you're already part of the data. Subscribe, or the next story might be written about you.